Everybody, I want to introduce. Hi, you know who I am. I want to introduce you, Richard Grayson, who works at the studio in Santa Barbara, California, the Genius of Flexibility Center, and Josh is in the California Center. And then and Eric. So we came here in order to show you what we figured out many years ago. I wanted to move a lot better than I was moving, and I was with some people that were some of the best in the world training me, and I wasn't getting better. But I thought I was as smart as they were and as devoted as they were, or ambitious. So I realized it just wasn't translating, so I had to figure it out. So I went to the Harvard Medical Library, and I had a membership there, and I ran a nonprofit research movement company. And for 4 years, I studied rehabilitative medicine myself. I taught math at a couple colleges, Williams College and UMass. And so I like teaching other people, but I don't like being taught if the person's teaching me the way they learned. I want them to adapt to me. So I ended up spending a lot of time teaching myself doing things. So I was at the Harvard Medical Library for 4 years, and I realized rehab didn't really work. And so I had to make a discovery that wasn't known. But in the process of, after doing that study, I don't know if you know the story, I got run over by a car at 70 miles an hour as a pedestrian. And I was with another person at the same time that didn't survive that. So I had to make discoveries that were not known. And I knew I didn't know what it would take to rehabilitate myself. A friend of mine saw how depressed I was, and so what he did, he threw me in a pond with a bunch of nice looking people around, and he thought that would do it for me. That didn't work. And I started jogging and swimming. I ran 105 miles a week and swam twice a day for 12 years. So I got super fit and overly horny. And it didn't really work to rehabilitate my body, so then I had to make a discovery. So then, to back up for a second, we just came back from Norway, and Norway is the largest number of Norway population, as you know, is in this place. And we love Norway, and we just worked with the best football players in Norway. We're going back to work with them again. It was fabulous there. We did a lot of cold plunging. This is warm water, as you know. We did a lot of cold plunging and saunas. It's a natural phenomenon in Norway. So, so I made a discovery that I had traveled around the country, went to best orthopedic people in the world. I was very Western in my understanding of things. And I found out they didn't know how to do rehab, and particularly how to change flexibility and to make the person better than before they had their accident. So if recovery is really working, you don't just get rid of the problem, you get to be better than you were before that happened. So I made a discovery. I think you already know this, you just probably never identified it, but when you watch a cat and dog stretch forward, they reach forward and then they go, they make that movement like that. And you know, when you get up in the morning, and it's called pandiculation, you get up and you go like, but when you do yoga, you go like this or something. And I like the yoga poses. And so you're not what I identified was that when animals stretch, and we're partly an animal, that muscles actually contract when you stretch. So most people think when you're going to stretch a muscle, the more you yank on the muscle, the more the muscle stretches. Well, if that worked, everybody would be really flexible. So instead, what animals do is that they contract the muscle while they stretch. So you can contract and shorten your muscle for strength, or you can contract and lengthen your muscle when you stretch. And when you do that, it causes an immediate increase in flexibility and capacity of the muscle to shorten, the rate of shortening, and the rate of the rate or the acceleration. So at Wimbledon, when we worked with Martina Hingis, we gave her a 10-mile-an-hour ball increase during competition in 2 days. So there's some radical rates of change that can happen for people. We were just with Nusa. I don't know if you know who Nusa is. He's a football player in Norway. And we worked with him for 4 days doing double sessions. And he went back to practice, and he outperformed himself on every measurable drill that he's ever done in his whole life and outperformed the entire team. So now we're thinking of camping out in Germany for a year to actually make one of the best football players in the world. So that's kind of what we do. But in the process of me just making this discovery that muscles had to contract when you stretch, that was working to rehabilitate my body because I was very injured biomechanically from the 70-mile impact into my body. I was stretching out this muscle group on the outside of my leg, and my bladder contracted. So I called my California friend on the phone and I said, hey, you know, my bladder's contracting when I'm stretching my lateral hamstrings. She goes, oh, in Chinese medicine, that's the energy channel for Chinese medicine. And I was like, I don't really want to be associated with Chinese medicine. And I got off the phone and I stretched out my lateral quad. And when I did that, my stomach contracted, my real stomach. And I called her back and I said, do they have a stomach energy channel in Chinese medicine? And she said, they do. And I said, is it in the back of the shoulder? And she said, no, it's in the lateral quad. And I said, oh yeah, that's where I found it too. I'll call you back. And then I went and I stretched the muscle group on the inside of my leg and my pancreas area contracted. And I called her over and I said, do they have a pancreas meridian? And she said, yes. It's called spleen pancreas and it's on the posterior medial aspect of the leg. And I said, yeah. So I don't know how they figured it out, but it is true that these muscle groups seem to be capable of affecting my organs in my body. And I had a lot of serious organ problems. So everybody knows biomechanical is terrible, but organs a little worse. And so I started doing them and spending quite a bit of time every day doing that. And then if you've ever been to Boston, Massachusetts, they're attracted to people like Joseph, you know, the hockey player here, right? And I don't look like him, you know? So when he walks down the street, they're like, yeah, right? And when I walk down the street, nothing happens. They like this in Costa Rica. So you can go to different countries where they really like your look. So if you want to know where that is, just let me know. We'll let you know what country will actually work for you. So I was stretching out muscle groups on the front center of my body. And when I was doing that, I went outside and every single person hit on me. They were like, hi, good morning. I was like, it's not me, that's never happened. Next person's like, hi, how you doing? I'm like, I'm good, I guess I'm good. And I was like, I wonder what meridian that is. So I went back and I bought a Chinese medicine book, but I didn't read it because I didn't want to be biased by somebody's database. And I looked it up and they called it a conception vessel, which I think limits sexual. The Chinese are a little uptight. And so I called it sexual meridian instead. So here I am, I'm becoming sexy instead. See, I don't know how to do it. But anyhow, when you stretch that muscle group, you could affect the personality that way. Well, that was really good. So I started doing that, really worked for me. And I started to develop different aspects of my personality based on different muscle groups. So now what I had discovered was you have to naturally contract the muscle when you stretch. It does it naturally. You don't have to do it. It just naturally does it. And when you do that, a friend of mine at Harvard that does research on genetic degenerative muscular diseases, his father's dying of one, where his father, when he exercises, just develops scar tissue and doesn't hypertrophy muscle tissue, so ultimately it dies when it goes into his organs of his body. He came to my studio and he said, how do you stretch muscles? And I said, well, it's obvious. You know, if you watch animals stretch, they contract the muscle when they stretch. And I said, so we have people either self-stretching by contracting a muscle and stretching it, or by people assisting them when they contract muscles when you stretch. And he goes, in the lab, well, we found out that when animals stretch, they naturally contract the muscle when they stretch, just like you said. And when they do that, enzymes are released that cause transfiguration of the fascial material, removal of the scar tissue, and regeneration of the other tissues. So that's why animals stay flexible as they get older in a much greater sense than most people do. So what we found out was that if we would stretch different muscle groups in the body, not only would they get an increase in true flexibility that was immediate, cumulative, and sustainable, but they would also have a change in an organ function of the body, whether it was the digestion of small intestine or elimination problems or their internal immune system or external immune. So when I made that discovery about muscle need to stretch, and after a year and a half, I had identified 8 stretches for the lower body, 8 stretches for the upper body, and when you do that, they're associated with a certain biomechanical upgrade in performance and repair of tissue, and they're associated with an organ function, and they're associated with a personality development. So after a year and a half, I wasn't sure how much I was allowed to talk about this. 2 years ago in November, we released my database, a 40-year database on genetic personality types. So if somebody comes to us and they have scar tissue in this muscle group, we know they're addicted. And so I don't know if you know this, but most people, when they go into addictive places, it never really works. I don't know how much you know about it. They don't work. And the reason why is because you can't talk the person out of a psychological problem. You can't do that. Everybody knows. because the basis for the psychology is in the physical body. And so if you go after and you take the scar tissue out of the body that was caused by a trauma, then what happens is that you reconnect the person to a part of themselves physically, psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually that they were disconnected from or thwarted from developing. So that's our job. So it turned into a theory of 16 genetic personality types. So when I meet somebody in a part of a second, because of I've been doing it for so long, I've known 1,000 people. So when I met Joseph, I knew 1,000 people that are his type. So it was really easy for me to know what type he was and what type Claire was. And the same thing with Josh. So when I met Josh, I'm like, oh, that's one extreme guy. Like, oh, he comes from an extreme culture. They like change in this place. We have to go up there and facilitate and support people with their change. So we want to show you that and explain that technique and have you make the discovery that I made, so you don't have to believe it. You get to experience that within your own body. So let's have you personally experience that yourself first. So if you wanted to strengthen your bicep, you could keep lifting your arm up towards you, and the number of times you did it, sooner or later your bicep would develop. But Schwarzenegger told us years ago that you have to add additional external resistance. So if you use your other hand on your wrist, and while you're resisting the movement of lifting your wrist towards your shoulder, can you do this, everybody? So put pressure down on your wrist, and then resist your arm coming out, your hand coming up, and only resist as much as you can keep moving, and you're going to feel that your bicep is contracting, and everybody knows that's strength training. Can you do it 3 or 4 times? So you can actually feel your bicep actually contracting when you do it. And change the amount of resistance you use so you can really feel that the more resistance you do, the more sensation you have in your bicep. Kind of obvious, right? So if you want to develop any muscle group for strength, you start where the muscle's long, you go to where the muscle's short, you add additional external resistance, and it causes hypertrophy of muscle fibers. But when people stretch, they would start where the muscle's short, and then go where the muscle's long and longer and longer, and they keep thinking the more they yank on the muscle, the more the muscle's going to stretch. That's not how muscles stretch. Find out how different the force is if you try to stretch the muscle instead by allowing it to contract. So do the strength movement again and resist it while your arm's coming up. But then once your wrist is towards your shoulder, pull your arm towards you as much as you can, and with your other arm, see if you can move your arm away. Oh, wait a minute, there's much more force, right? Wait a minute, it's the same muscle contracting. Whether you go this direction or that direction, it's the same muscle. How come when you go this way, you can beat your strength, but when you go this way, you can't do it? Where's the additional force coming from? That's what I discovered. It's not coming from the muscle. Around your muscle tissue is fascial material that actually roots into every type of tissue in your body. So your fascial material just doesn't surround things. It goes inside of your muscles. It goes inside of your tendons, inside of your bones, inside of your organs. It invades all the tissues of the body, the fascial material. So what we did was that we went over to Bordeaux, France. I was being supported by an Indian guy. And we cut open the back of a leg. Jean-Claude Guimberteau, the world's authority on endoscopic viewing of fascial structures, cut open we're in the operating room with scrubs on and everything. And the guy's laying on his belly, and we had a cut here, a 6-inch slit, and we had a camera inside of his body, just basically inside with a light on it. And we watched as he either strengthened the bicep of his leg, or traditionally stretched it by yanking on it, or by him allowing the muscle to contract. And while the muscle was contracting, we then stretched it the way animals stretch. And when we did the strength training or the traditional stretch, at 25 times the magnification, we're looking at what's happening at the fascial structures. Nothing's happening with either strength or traditional stretch. But the moment he contracted allowed the muscle to contract when he stretched, the fascia turned 70-some degrees, completely transfigured. Scar tissue got pulled right out of the fascial material and out of the muscle tissue. And when we came back, you had tensegrity structure increased again in the fascial material. So the way the body works is that you have these bones that hold you up like in a building, but you're moving. And so you have this fascial material that surrounds and impregnates everything. And it's essentially, each one is like a geodesic dome. And in a geodesic dome, there's no vertical support, so you only get support that goes around the structure. So when you stand up, your fascial material, as the weight comes down into your knee, it doesn't go into the knee, it goes around the knee and being supported by this tensegrity structure. If you have trauma to the fascial material, what happens is that it no longer suspends the joint structures, and it causes compression and destructive stresses inside of the body. So the question is, how do you change that fascial material? So what we presented what we saw at the International Fascial Congress in Vancouver. It's a great place to go. I'm sure a bunch of people have been there. When we presented that, what we presented was that when you naturally allow a muscle to contract when you stretch, and the greater the range of motion, the greater the tension you generate when you do that, what ends up happening is that you get an immediate change in flexibility, capacity of the muscle to shorten, rate of shortening, and the acceleration. And you get repair of the tissues of the body. So that's what we know. So, like I said, when we work on somebody, we have a person, you can have them on the ground or however you want to be that way. And we can work on a particular muscle group. When we work on that muscle group, we can change the suspension at a joint structure, and it's a permanent change of the person. I wasn't really looking for information on personality types that I was aware of. I just wanted to repair my body from my automobile accident. I come from a family that my sister qualified for the Mexico Olympics in sprinting. My family's way into moving well, and so they found it unacceptable after my accident that I couldn't do well. So I had to figure out something. And that's what I figured out. So we want to show you on somebody's body, and I'll ask you before we do that. So it was true that when you did this, you could resist the ability to strengthen your bicep. Your other hand could outdo the strength of your bicep. But when you go the other way, there's no way at all that your arm can actually move and do that. Is that what you found out? What's your name? What are you, a sprinter or something? You like to run or something? Jumper. What kind? Oh, volleyball. Okay. Are you aware? I mean, can we go there? Okay, good. You can do the same to me. Just start invading and just do whatever you want to do, okay? Obviously need to squat to get down in order to jump up, right? And volleyball, I work with volleyball players. I'm going to give you some data. Let's see where we are together on this one, okay? So in volleyball, what happens, it's actually a spiritual sport. It's actually a logical thinking sport. So usually people have to mature a lot of years before they figure out the statistics of how to beat the other team. It's much less about the physical body and more about statistical analysis. So have you taken courses in stats? Okay, well, I highly recommend it. Go to a local college, get a stat course, and you'll be like, oh shit, that's exactly what I do when I'm playing volleyball. But anyhow, in terms of the physical part, when you, who's the most famous American volleyball player? He's a blonde-headed guy. He's an older guy now. He's like 60 years old. What's his name, James? Oh my God, okay. Anyhow, he was training somebody I was working with, and I looked at him and I said, hey, you know, your person you're trying to train to make this movement can't make that movement. And he goes, I keep telling him. I go, well, he goes to a prestigious college. He's obviously smart enough. Why can't he make the movement? And he goes, I keep telling him. And I go, have you noticed he's got a different body than you? Like, he doesn't have a body that can make that movement. You can't mentally make your body make a movement. You have to have the body that can actually make the movement. So I said, I don't know anything about volleyball. Tell me which movements you want him to make, and I'll facilitate his flexibility and strength so he can actually make the movement. It gives me a lot of attitude because, you know, he's super famous, and I'm like Bob Cooley, right? And so I looked at him and I said, do I look impressed? He goes, what? I said, do I look impressed when I look at you? I said, aren't you one of the most famous volleyball players in history? I go, you should be ashamed of yourself that you know more about how to help the guy you're working with. It's like, oh no. I'm like, who are you? And so then he goes, and I had to talk to him that way, and then he goes, I want you to train me. I'm like, oh my God, that's how you have to talk to this guy to help him? It's unbelievable. You don't want that much resistance by people. I mean, come on. I did. Stretch him one day, yeah. So in order to squat, it's in fact true that gravity brings you down to the ground, right? No. You have to pull yourself down into a squat. So that means it's not a matter of lowering, it's not about releasing the tension in your lateral hamstring. It's a matter of actually pulling your body down with these muscle groups in the front. And if they're flexible enough to shorten, they can squat you. And while you're squatting, the muscle groups on the outside back of your legs, your lateral hamstrings and calves and your external glutes and going up to your spine on either side of your spine are stretching like crazy. So when you squat, you should feel like somebody's trying to push you into a squat and you're not actually allowing them. That means these muscles you're going to stretch when you squat, as opposed to the ones that are shortening are going to stretch while these are shortening. And now that these are stretched, contract and look at you and jump up. It's true that will increase your sense of humor. So everybody starts laughing when you talk about that. So I'm glad you're laughing. What I did was I walked around and looked at all the different tents and what people are doing, and I'm really happy that Josh has assembled such cutting edge people that are doing different kinds of work here and stuff like that. I'm really happy about that. But what I did was I looked for a victim. So I kept looking around like, what dude am I going to actually change here today? Because, I mean, I got to pick somebody that's going to happen, right? And I looked at everybody, I was like, you know, that guy with those glasses on, he's hiding. He's hiding his shit. So I'm going to work on him instead. So can you introduce yourself?
My name's Reed Nelson.
Well, come on up here. They can hear you better. Okay.
My name's Reed Nelson. Bob picked me up.
Okay, say yeah.
Is that a good enough introduction?
Yeah, I hope so. See, I knew that he lacked the flexibility in both his ability to squat and to jump, and so I knew I had to help him to jump up. Otherwise, it wasn't going to really work. And if I was going to fuck with him more, I would have pushed him down a little more to make him instinctually contract more to get back up. I was leaving him alone, but I'm not going to leave him alone now. We're going to work on one of his shoulders. He's got more problems on one shoulder than the other. We're going to work on the shoulder that's not so much of a problem. Which one? That's his right shoulder. Okay, guys, can you help me? Can you lie down here for a second? So you can see he obviously doesn't come from a mafia family, because anybody from the mafia like myself knows that you never put your head towards the entrance of anything. So his head should be up here. Besides, this thing is slanting, so he should be over here instead. So can your head be this way, please? Okay, see, that makes more sense now, right? Can you let your knees be bent? Can I put this under your head? Okay. Oh, we're going to grab this arm. We're just going to make 8 different movements on his arm. And by the way, when you contract the muscle when you strengthen, compared to the muscle naturally contracting when you stretch, the fascial material when you strengthen just crinkles towards each other. But when you stretch, the fascial material in scar tissue has 6 times the maximal contraction of the muscle, but is not connected to your brain the way the muscle tissue is, so there's almost no feeling whatsoever. So the forces you generate in your body when you naturally stretch, that are up to 6 times the maximal contraction of the muscle, are not connected to your brain, so you're not going to have sensation. It sounds like a California hoax, if you ask me, but that's what's going to happen. So it's going to take 3 men to actually work on the scar tissue with his right shoulder. And then I paid him to say wonderful things when he finishes so we can promote what we're doing. Now let's see what happens to him, okay? Can we move you? Okay, cool. We want to use your lower arm as a lever to either, we can use your lower arm either as a lever to inward rotate your upper arm or externally rotate your upper arm. So in order to change your rotation of your upper arm, which is everybody is too internally rotated, we're going to have to stretch half the muscles that inward rotate you so they allow external rotation, and stretch the external rotators so they can contract and bring your arm into more external rotation. Also, your shoulder is more retracted. Yeah, it's kind of diagonally down in that way. And it's also flexed besides being protracted. So we're going to see if we can change the shoulder girdle. The shoulder's too close to your head. We're going to make it wider out to the side. Well, you're going to do it. We're just going to help you. So the force that he's going to generate when we're stretching him can't be tolerated if we went with our hands into the tissue to change it. So it doesn't matter what modality you're using to try to change the tissue from the outside. It can't be changed from the outside. the forces that are necessary are naturally generated from inside of the body. Let's find out. Can I move your arm for a sec? Can you push down into Richard's hand and keep pushing down that way? We're going to bring your arm. We'll tell you if it's too much or too little resistance. Ow, ow, oh, you're killing me. Oh, it hurts so bad. Oh, you told me not to scream or anything, but it's killing me, and I have to pretend like it doesn't hurt. Does it hurt at all? Okay, here we go. So see, it looks like we're doing nothing. What we're actually doing is, while he's learning how to naturally resist when we stretch, we're testing out if there's any damage to the articular structures, particularly to the shoulder joint. Okay, that's really great. Thanks very much. Can we go the other way? And push down in that direction. Keep pushing that way. Here we go. So now while he's pushing back and contracting his external rotators of his arm, we're internally rotating, so we're stretching out. We're helping him stretch out let this come down more. His external rotators of his arm so they can contract more. Okay, thanks very much. We're going to make 8 different movements on you now. Can I move your arm, please? Can you let your arm come up this way, internal? So you're going to push upward meaning above your head and out towards Eric. And then we're going to bring your arm down into your belly here. Here we go. Resist us. We're going to make a 3-dimensional movement. We're going to externally rotate your arm. We're also going to adduct it. We're going to extend it while you're actually lifting up and doing the opposite of those movements. These are muscle groups for the back of your shoulder, going down the back of your arm into your ring finger. Now we're going to balance that out with the balancing muscle groups, what Americans call agonist and antagonist. Pull down that way. Keep pulling that way. Chinese call them balancing muscle groups instead. And so now we're going to stretch out your lat and muscle groups in your bicep going up into your cheek and temple. Let me extend your arm again. Let me externally rotate you instead. Keep externally rotating. Please resist us as we take you, please. Keep taking it. The yin muscle groups on the front of the body and everybody's body, all the muscle groups on the front and inside of your body, inside meaning front or, adducting muscle groups. Those muscle groups are always muscle bound in everybody, and the muscle groups on the back and outside of your body are yang muscle groups, and they carry the dense fascia and scar tissue. So when you stretch out the front, go get him again. You're going to feel a lot of, push down. You're going to feel a lot of, you're going to feel tension on the muscle groups on the front and have a lot of sensation when you stretch. But when you stretch muscle groups in the back, it has all the dense fascia and scar tissue. There'll be very little feeling. Okay, cool. Thanks. Can we move your arm again? Can we move it up here, please? Let your elbow bend, please. Okay. Don't let them extend your elbow, and don't let Richard take your elbow out towards him. Thanks very much. Can we try that again? When you use resistance to stretch a muscle, the limiting factor is never the muscle you're stretching. It's always the muscle group on the other side that needs to contract and shorten. We'll show you that in just a moment. So even though we're stretching out muscle groups and his pec going down his bicep into the front side of his little finger here, it's actually the muscles back here on the back side that need to be able to contract. Wait, can I move you for a sec? Keep pushing outward with your wrist and, no, that way towards Richard. No. And downward with your elbow so we lift up your arm. Here we go. We want you to extend this more. Extend this more. And then you can, yeah. Thanks very much. Can we try a different movement, please? Let your arm come across your body. That's going to be internal. And while you're lifting up and across, we're going to bring you outward and downward. Let your arm extend more. Thanks. Even more. Thanks very much. Keep pulling towards you again now. He's strengthening to come across, and what I'm doing is changing the rotation. So I stay on the muscle groups that are actually weak when he tries to shorten them. Keep pulling across, please. Thanks very much. Can you push back instead, please? Keep pushing back, please. Thanks very much. Can we try that again, please? Can you push back, please? Keep pushing back. So please understand, 3 guys are using their maximal force in order to stretch him, and he's not experiencing any pain in the body. Thanks. And can you push up this way, please? Keep coming up this way. Don't let Eric bring you back. Kick against Eric's leg, please. Please resist in both your arm and your trunk. Don't let Richard bring your arm. Don't let Eric take your trunk. Push back again with both your trunk and your arm. Don't let Richard bring your arm. See, it looks like mud wrestling, That's what it looks like. Can you lift up in that direction, please? Yeah. You can see we're the ones that get tired. I mean, he's just, he's having a good time. Pull down towards you again with your hand in towards your knee. Hopefully something happened. Let's see what happens. We're tired. Okay, I want to stand up for a second and check it out and see if you notice any difference between your right shoulder, the way it used to be, compared to the way it is now. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So when you look at him, you can see that what's happened is the upper arm is more externally rotated than this arm. This arm is more internally rotated. This is more externally rotated. It's more externally rotated. You can see the shoulder is wider out to the side and more rotated, right? That's a permanent change in the body. What do we do? Spend 10 minutes or something? Yeah. Can you? Oh no.
We're not done yet?
No. Can you try I come from California. We do this thing. How you doing? Love you, babe. Can you show me a push-up position and compare the feeling in your two arms?
On the right side, like everything's tucked underneath, like serratus.
So what happens is that you get a biomechanical upgrade. So for the same movement, it takes less energy to make the movement, and you're also avoiding damage to your body. It's changed the bone rotational relationships. So for example, when you meet most people, what happens, most people are actually interiorly flexed, and they're hyper externally rotated in their legs, and their shoulders are too narrow, and their arms are too internally rotated. That's the posture of a baby. So when somebody matures, what happens is that the thighs go internal, the pelvis starts to extend, the shoulder girdle goes wider, and the arms go externally rotated. So when you have trauma in the body, what happens is that, say you traumatized your lateral quad, that's going to cause your outward rotation of your right thigh. And say it happened when you were 5. Now this part of you is still 5 years old. Regardless of what age you are, that part of you never grew up. And that part's associated with an organ function and psychological behavior and physiological function. And so as you age, this part of you is not equipped for what you're doing when you're aging. So when you change that, you actually release the person from that trauma. How does it feel? So is this thing happening tomorrow too, or just today? Just today, okay. So later you have to chase down this motherfucker and find out if the arm changed and went back to the same position or not. We need to know, right? So you don't know that, and he doesn't know, but it's a permanent architectural change of the internal fascia of the body. So when we worked with a gymnast in Holland who had destroyed a nerve plex in his shoulder, because gymnastics has some pretty strange training, then what happened was that we changed that, and then even though he didn't have two muscles in his shoulder still, he then did the highest difficulty level ever performed on the high bar and the highest score ever achieved on the high bar. And then he won the gold in the London Games in the high bar. You probably saw him, that guy that flipped off the bar and would flip and do double twists like that, and then he'd grab the bar and then he'd swing around again. That was Epka. He's a Norwegian athlete. So you're changing biomechanics, and it's rapidly increasing not only just your ability to move, but the ability of the muscle to contract. And when the muscle contracts, that's what you need for movement. So flexibility is not about the movement. It's about giving you the capacity to make a movement instead. So flexibility is not the end game. It's not your way to be able to allow movement, but more importantly, for the muscle to contract. And the rate that it contracts and the rate of acceleration. And in athletics, acceleration is the deal. Do you feel terrible or? Okay, see? Yeah. See, we look tired and he's like, hey, I'm good to go. Can we do some more? Huge effort on the people's assisting part as they counter up to 6 times the maximal strength of that person's body in order to change that fascia material. So we saw endoscopically what happened when you did that to a person and how the fascial material actually goes back into this beautiful tensegrity structure that creates 6 degrees of freedom in your body, this tensegrity structure to match your joint structure. And we also saw scar tissue be removed out and inflammation to come out of the joint structures. All that happened for the person. Did I pick a good person? See, there you go. Okay. Am I good? Yeah, I think you're good. I think you're good. Okay. I think you're good. Thanks for everything. Yeah, thanks for everything. Yeah. Okay. So, Matt, in the athletic world, the ability to accelerate in a movement translates in different sports in different ways. So So for example, in both football, soccer, and in tennis, for just examples, Caitlin Clark has this too in basketball. What happens is that the more you can get the muscle to not just have speed, but to have the ability to change speed, that's called acceleration. In sprinting, it's called gears. Like Usain Bolt had gears when he ran. Other people are running fast and he's like, how's that? When you put it on a ball, it allows you to create movement in a ball that otherwise the ball can't make. So if you're on a soccer field and the goal's there, if you can put acceleration on the ball, not the force and the speed, but the acceleration, you can direct that ball to do anything you want to. So you're parallel to the goal, and now that ball is going to curve and make its way into where you want it to go. If you do it in tennis and you hit the ball, and most tennis players, even the best, can't judge acceleration. They judge speed but not acceleration. So when the ball hits the ground, the ball goes, and goes in these wild directions. So it's a big deal. Here's the second part of all of this. When I was hit by the car, because my friend died, and it made me unable to move, it was pretty tragic in my body that way. When I started fixing my body biomechanically, I was happy about that. The physiological changes were even more important for me, I thought. But when it started changing me psychologically, that was really important because the biggest damage was really the spiritual aspect of the accident, which means I could no longer have the life I was having. I was kicked out of my life. It's a much better looking shoulder on that side than the other side. Dude, I want one of those instead. So if the plane goes down, we'll eat those muscles and not the ones on the other side. They'll be more tender. So what happened for me was that I was, because I had such damage to certain muscle groups, I was very depersonalized. So for like 30 years, when I ate food, I wouldn't taste it. I would watch myself eat it. And when I walked, I would watch myself, but I wouldn't feel myself. I was very depersonalized. And so I finally figured out how to stretch the muscle groups to bring me out of that. And then I woke up one morning and I was like, how am I going to explain this to people? I think everybody feels to a certain extent dead besides alive, and that deadness doesn't allow them to be connected to their life and to do things. Well, I had a lot of that. And so all of a sudden I was back alive again. I was like, wow, 35 years, and now I'm back alive. That's good. And but the personality information really works. So when we meet somebody, and when I picked out Mr. Pericardium, his types associated with the function of the pericardium and circulation of the body, we already know that we have to go after certain muscle groups because circulation is the issue for him. We need more arterial blood flow. Or Matt, for yourself, I'm not sure your type yet. I'm close to getting there. But when we do, when we know the person's type, it tells us how to interface with them. Meaning, we start evaluating them. Here they are, born this genetic type. When the sperm and egg join, the genetic type is formed. What I'm now working on is automated identification of genetic types. Right now we do it as a team of people. I can do it in a part of a second, knowing what type of person's type is, but we're automating that system out so that anybody, at almost no cost to them at all probably, they can know what their genetic type is. That means the foundation of your house is identified, and then after that, conditioning is everything that needs to happen. So when we meet people, we know what the foundation is, and then we know, say for example, Mr. Right Shoulder, when you know when Reed was born, he's born a particular type, and it means he's a spiritual person, and that means that in what order does he develop himself otherwise? Well, what he does is he goes analytically thinking next, and then after that he goes emotional, and then last he goes physical. So we're evaluating a person when we meet them, not what their genetic type is, but in what parts of them are developed and at what stage are they in their development towards being balanced as a person. So inside of you, Reed, is a woman. Inside a person, they're unconscious, is the other gender. And so that's a woman. And so the woman inside of you actually has very different personality traits that you do, but they're actually the source of your traits. Your traits, I think, are associated with being disciplined. Are you disciplined? Yeah. You'd like to be more, of course, right? Oh, no, you're good enough? Oh, well, that's arrogance. Okay. And no, it's okay. I'm glad. And he loves, this guy loves, I mean, you're way on me. What's your name anyhow? No, the blonde guy with the blue hat. What's your name? Chris? He's so on this. I mean, it's so fun to watch. He's like, that guy, man, he's going to tell people shit. Chris, when I met an NBA basketball player, I like different spiritual traditions. My personality type likes a diversity of spiritual traditions. And this guy was a very, very, very hardcore fundamental Christian. That was a problem for me. I was trying to get him to validate other religious and spiritual traditions, you know? So when I met him, I knew I had to go after him. I had 15 seconds to fuck him with him, right? So I get to his hotel room, he opens up the door, and they're big, right? So I'm looking up this guy, and I go, Jesus, you're not nearly as tall as I think you'd be. And he goes, what? And I said, you're destroying the cartilage in your left knee because you have scar tissue in your central hamstring. And he goes, you know that from just looking at me? I go, it's an additional problem you have. You have more money than God, and you don't hang out with anybody that knows anything. Could you get on the ground? I got to see if my diagnosis is wrong. And he got on the ground, I moved his knee, and I said, oh, you're too damaged for me to know that I know anything. Send me Charles Austin, he's your private trainer, and if he thinks I know anything, then we can go forward with this. Nice meeting you, and then I'm out of there. That's what it's like. Welcome to my world, right? You meet these people like Oprah, and they take a lot of space in a lot of ways, right? And so you have to figure out how to get to them really quickly and get through those gates, right? So it was really easy for me to know, Reed, when I met you, like that you were tight in the shoulders and you knew about that yourself. I already knew that you knew. I speculated you knew. And I knew it would be fun for you if you went after your shoulder in particular, see? Whereas somebody else would have to do something else, right? There are 16 genetic personality types. Chris is the 17th type. We came all the way to Montana. I mean, what's the name of this place? Minnesota. He came to Minnesota. Okay, I knew you would love that. He came to Minnesota just to meet the 17th type. He's that. So in terms of your volleyball, what needs to happen for your volleyball? Because it's a spiritual sport, are you aware when you watch people skateboard or people when they surf that it's not leg dominant? Did you think it was leg dominant? No. It's arm dominant. What they're doing is that they're throwing their arms up, and it's like they're grabbing hold of the air. And when they grab hold of the air, they hold that, and that's what allows them to turn their body and use their trunk and their legs. It's really their lats that they're using all the time. It's not really, the legs are secondary to that. Who would ever guess, right? And in volleyball, you know that it's associated with which muscle group in particular? I'm sorry? No, it's a trunk activity. So the next time that you're doing volleyball, could you do me a favor? Because I got to look at it, right? I mean, think about it. Think about me. If you can't think about it yourself, just think about doing it for me. The next time you play the volleyball and you want to hit the ball, could you just think about could you put more attention on your trunk? Now, if you have to put hot and cold stuff on you to turn it on or whatever you got to do, something's got to happen, right? So the whole time you're making all these movements, you're just like, Bob told me the trunk, and now I'm thinking the trunk, and I'm making this trunk movement. It's so unbelievable. And then the ball goes in places you would have never guessed it was going to go, where you would never even imagine where the ball would go. So if we stretch your trunk, you would see that would happen. So anyhow, on our website, 16geniuses.com, anybody can send in a little video, and then we send them the 16 to 43 pages on their genetic type. Their IQ, their type of IQ, their defense mechanisms, their high personality traits, their low personality traits, what their medical challenges are going to be. It's a ridiculous database. I did it for 40 years. But now at the end of next year, probably by next summer, by this time next summer, anybody can be typed for free and know what their genetic type is. Right now I do a stretch class, a Zoom class, in either the Boston or Santa Barbara studio on Monday and Saturdays, and I also do a genetic personality type class on Fridays. But you can go to our webpage and find out all the blah blah, right? It's called The Genius of Flexibility, or the 16geniuses.com. Richard's been coming here now several times, devoting himself to help stretchy people here. Josh brought me here because he really wants the stretching to happen for him, of course, right? He wants the change in his body, right? And I like that. And so Richard's been coming here, and Richard's, interested in coming back and helping out more. And so like I said, we're going to stretch somebody I'm the Center for Sobriety, so you can imagine what it's like for me. I'm now going to stretch somebody in a brewery. I mean, how am I dealing with this? You see my struggle? I'm just getting nervous always thinking about it. No, it's okay. I've never had a coffee, never had a soft drink. I don't do caffeinated products. My body gets sick. I can't do those products. I get high on a carrot brownie instead. But we're going to stretch somebody right inside of the brewery. And if you want to watch and be more involved, if you actually want to assist, Chris, I would like you to experience that, Chris, so you could actually know, right? And that motherfucker that was next to you, don't let him drop out like he just did, okay? Don't let that happen. Like, bring that guy, okay? Like, I don't know what happened to him. I was kind of in on his case, and he's now dropped out. Okay, well, I mean, that's what we did. We just wanted to let you know that you could stretch people. It was very different. Please let your muscles contract when you stretch. It's a really great thing to do. So you tested it out with your arm and that. So can we end by you testing out one more thing? We want to stretch out muscle groups on the back of your shoulder. The muscle groups on the back of your shoulder are associated with the assimilation of proteins in your small intestine. So it doesn't matter what food you eat, it matters. I eat great food. I like bison, by the way, because it's indigenous to the continent. But when you eat proteins, and it's a good protein, it doesn't mean because it's a good protein you can digest it. Whether you can digest it is based on the health of the lining of your small intestine and the action of the oscillations in your digestive process. So if we stretch out these muscle groups, it's going to get you to digest your proteins. Because if you don't digest a protein, the body doesn't just eliminate it, it produces fat to store the toxins. So we worked with Al Roker. I'm like, don't hate your fat, dude. It's saving your life. It's storing these toxins in your body. And then we stretched out these muscle groups on the back of his shoulder. And he lost 1 pound every day for 10 days and kept it off because we just increased his digestion that way.